So y'all know what the CBA is? Yes, by now, hopefully. Okay, your CBA is 10 questions. It's on Friday. And so since we pushed your other tests to this week, it's kind of weird because it's like you're testing twice, but this one's really a quiz grade. So it might feel like a test, but it's only 10 questions. The whole thing is multiple choice. And it really is just for the district, for them to get a good idea of what you guys are learning in here, if y'all are getting it, if you're not getting it, that kind of stuff. So we'll review the next 2 days, and then y'all will take that on Friday. So really, this homework is kind of your last homework for the week, okay? So the last thing on this topic is direct and inverse variation. Here's the difference. Direct variation is when they remain in constant proportion with one another. Okay, in other words, the ratio of y over x is constant. Now, the way that you can remember which one goes on top is that think about y is like your rise and x is like your run. So you can think about that's like rise over run. Okay, now it's not exactly rise over run because you don't have 2 points, but just to help you remember, y goes on top, x goes on bottom. Okay, so this value that they always divide to is called the constant of proportionality. Okay? Kind of a long word, okay, but what direct variation is that every situation will divide to the same number based on what numbers you pick. Okay? Just a couple of kind of general things to put this into perspective. So for direct variation, if you change one quantity, you'll have a change in the same direction. Okay, so here are some examples. Let's say that you're making cookies. If you're going to double the flour, what do you have to do to the sugar? Double it. Exactly the same. What about if you're going to cut the recipe in half? You cut everything in half. Okay, so that would be the same. If I increase the flour, I increase the sugar, I increase the vanilla, blah, blah, blah. Okay, another example, the hours that you work. If you cut it in half, what happens to your pay? It gets cut in half. So it's the exact same ratio every single time. Okay, here's how you work word problems, okay? So let's say that you're doing this. It says, y varies directly with x, and it's given that x is 3 when y is 6. Find the value of y when x is 18. Well, remember, all of your proportions have to divide to the same thing. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to do y2 over x2 equals y1 over x1. Now think about, why are we setting them equal? Because we know they divide to the same thing. So, long story short, you're setting up a proportion, y goes on top. So if this is my first ordered pair, which way would I stack them? 3 over 6 or 6 over 3? Okay, 6 over 3 equals. And then for my new point, where do I put 18, top or bottom? The bottom, because it's an x. And then what would I put on top? Y. Okay, then y'all already know how to cross multiply, right? Darrell, here you go. You can go ahead and start on it. So what is 3 times y? 3y. And then what is 6 times 8? This is why y'all grabbed calculators. Or 6 times 18, sorry. What does that come out to be? Okay, then what do you do after that? Good. So that gives me 108 divided by 3. And y would have to be what? 36. Okay, now think about, my 3 went up to 18, then does it make sense that my 6 went up to 36? Yeah, they changed in the same direction. Okay, look at the next one, D. This time we want to know what x is when y is 24. You're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to put 6 over 3 equals, and then on the other side, if I want to know when y is 24, I'm going to put 24 on the top, x on the bottom. Cross multiply. 6 times x is 6x. 3 times 24 is how much? 72. Then what? Divide by 6. 72 divided by 6 gives me what? 12. Okay, now sometimes you guys, just kind of in general, y'all will notice patterns. So like think about, what did you notice about 6? It was always double what x was. So think about, if this was 18, is 36 double that? Yes. If this is 6, is 12 double that? Yes. So you should always, oh, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. 24 is double 12. Okay, so you should always notice that those patterns, those relationships stay the same if it's a direct variation. Okay, let's look at some word problems because this is how it is on your CBA. So it says, the number of miles Kelly can run varies directly with the number of weeks that she trains. Okay, so let's put miles over weeks. That's going to be the setup for our proportion. Now, technically, if it's a word problem, it doesn't really matter which one you put on top. You just have to pick one. So I'm going to put the miles she runs over the weeks that she trains. So let's find our first ordered pair. If she trains 2 weeks, she can run 12 miles. Which one goes on top? How do I stack them? Follow the formula we did here. What's going to go on top? 12 miles. What's going to go on bottom? 2 weeks. Okay, then look what it says here. How many miles could she run if she trains for 5 days? Okay, well then 5 is going to go on bottom because that's a number of days she trained. And then how many miles, I'm going to call that y. Now, typically I'll call it y if it's on top. I'll call it x if it's on bottom. Okay, then from here, 2 times y is 2y. 12 times 5 is how many? 60. Then divide by 2. Y is 30. Now, I do want you to go back and put units in. So if this is how far she runs, it's measured in miles. Okay? Look at the next one. It says her next race is 60 miles. How many weeks does she need to train? Okay, well, this side is going to stay the same. 12 over 2 equals. But this time, if it's 60 miles, where does that go? Top or bottom? Top. And then on bottom, I'd put x. So it's kind of the same thing over and over again, right? 12 times x is 12x. 2 times 60 is 120. Then divide by 12. What would x be there? 10. So she'd have to train for 10 weeks. Got it? Okay, one more. The amount of money raised at a charity fundraiser varies directly with the number of attendees. The amount of money raised for 5 attendees was $50. Okay, let's put the amount of money on top, money raised, and the number of attendees. You can put number of people if you don't want to write attendees on bottom. Okay, so let's put the first side of our proportion. How much money was raised in the situation that they gave me right here in this sentence? How much money? 50 for how many people? 5. So 50 over 5 equals. And then on the other side, which of the things do I know? 30 people. Where does that go? Top or bottom? Bottom. And then what do I put on top? Y. And then from there you would cross multiply. So 5 times y is 5y. 50 times 30 is 1,500. And then from there to solve, I have to divide by 5. 1,500 divided by 5 gives me 300. And that, remember, since y was money raised, my units would be dollars. Okay? All right, we have one more left on direct. So it says $600 was raised. How many people were in attendance? Okay, where would I put $600? Top or bottom? Okay, good. And remember, the 50 over 3 side stays the same. So if this is dollars, I would have to put $600 on top as well. Okay, then from there on the bottom, I'm going to put x and then cross multiply. So 50 times x is 50x. 3 times 6 is, Yep, then divide by 50. And 1,800 divided by 50 gives me how much? 36. Now, if it's x, remember, y was on top, x was on bottom. So x would be the number of people that went. Okay? All right, so that's half of what you need to know how to do. If it says they vary directly, you divide on both sides. Got it? Okay, flip over to the back. Now we're going to talk about the other type of variation, which is called inverse variation. Okay? Two quantities vary inversely with each other when their product is always a constant, and it's still called the constant of proportionality or the constant of variation. So for direct variation, oh wait, hold on, change this to inverse. For inverse variation, changing one quantity results in a proportional change in the opposite direction. This is what that means. When x goes up, y is going to go down. When y goes up, x is going to go down. So here's an example of that, okay, right here. If you double your speed, what happens to the amount of time that it takes you to get there? It's going to cut it in half, right? So I increase my speed, then my time in the car goes down. That's an inverse relationship. Okay, here's another example. If I cut a team in half, that's going to take me twice as long to finish whatever job they were supposed to do because I'm decreasing the number of people working on it. Well, then it's going to take me longer. So inverse is always the opposite direction, okay? So here is how you do your equations here. It's going to be x1 times y1, x2 times y2. Now, why am I multiplying on both sides? Because they have a constant what? A constant product. So you're going to multiply. It's not a proportion like we did on the other side. Okay, so take a look at number 4. It says y varies inversely with x so that when x is 2, y is 12. Well, then this is what you're going to do. You're going to do 2 times 12 equals 4 times y. So you're multiplying on each side instead of stacking them and dividing. Okay, so 2 and 12 get multiplied, and then 4 and y get multiplied. Then what is 2 times 12 here? 24. And then how do I solve for y if it's 4y? Divide by 4. And y would have to be what? 6. Now here's how you check your work. Remember that when you multiply the sets of numbers, they should equal each other. So what's 2 times 12 here? 24. What's 4 times 6 here? 24. Also notice my x was a 2, it went up to a 4. My y was a 12, it went down to a 6. So my x went up, my y went down, so that my product stayed exactly the same. Okay? Let's do one more like that. We're going to find the value of x when y is 8. Well, then it's going to be 2 times 12 equals x times 8. Okay, well again, what's 2 times 12? This is the same. 24. X times 8 is 8x. Then divide by 8 on both sides. What's x? It'd be 3. Good. Okay, and then think about, do 8 and 3 still multiply to 24? Yes, then you know that you did it right. Okay, let's do the last 2 word problems, and then y'all will have some time to work on your test. Okay, number 5. The number of men working on a product varies inversely with the number of hours it takes to complete the project. Okay, then it says it takes 4 men a total of 6 hours to complete the project. So I'm going to do men times hours. That's going to be my setup on both sides. So for my first situation, it was 4 men for 6 hours. 4 times 6 equals. Then on the other side it says how many men were on the product if it took 3 hours to complete. So you do x times 3. Okay, solving part is easy. 4 times 6 is 24. X times 3 is 3x. And then to solve, what do I do? Divide by 3. And so x would be 8 men. And if you write your units here to the side, then you don't have to go back and try to figure out. Like if I found the number in the first spot, then I know that it's the first thing that I wrote over here. Okay? All right, go down to the next one. It says how many men would it take how many hours would it take if you had a crew of 12 men? Well, this side stays the same. For 4 men, it took 6 hours. For 4 men, it took 6 hours. But now, how many guys do I have?
12.
So I do 12 times y. Okay? 4 times 6 still gives me 24. Equals 12y. Divide by 12 on both sides. How many hours would it take that big of a group? Only 2 hours. Okay, now think about. I had 4 men. It went up to 12 men. But my time went from 6 hours down to 2 hours. So the men went up, the time went down. That's inverse. If it was direct, they'd be going in the same direction. Okay, last one, number 6. The number of glasses of lemonade sold at the lemonade stand is inversely proportional to the number of days that it rains that summer. So the more that it rains, the less people are out to buy lemonade, right? The less it rains, the more people want to buy lemonade. Okay, so it says for 12 days of rain, the lemonade stand sold $105. So we'll do rain times dollars. That's our setup. Okay, for that situation, I'd put 12 days of rain times $105 equals. Okay, then on the other side, I'm going to put whatever specific scenario they're asking me about. So if it rains 6 days, how many glasses of lemonade would they sell? Well, that'd be, actually it should be a y since it's the second thing, but it doesn't really matter. You can pick whatever letter you want. Okay, remember your first step, you're going to multiply this side out, then you're going to divide by 6. Okay, just like cross multiplying, but you're not actually crossing. So 12 times 105 gives me how much? 1260. That equals 6y. Then what's my last step? Divide by 6. 1260 divided by 6, how much would they sell in lemonade? 210. Okay? Predict the number of days that it would rain if the lemonade stand sold 630 glasses of lemonade. So I'd put 12 times 105 on the left side, and then I'd put x times 360. Oh, oops, 630. I wrote it wrong, sorry. Okay? 12 times 105 is still 1260. That part's the same. But then on the other side, if it's x times 360, that's really just 360x. And then my last step, I'd divide by 630. 1260 divided by 630. How many days would it have rained that summer? 2 days. So think about their lemonade sold went up, so the number of days that it rained went down. That's inverse, okay? So take a look at your homework for me. We're going to write a little rhyme at the top to help you remember the difference. Okay, so if it starts with an I, if it starts with an I, for inverse, multiply, get it? Okay, you do x1 times y1. Okay, then if it starts with a D, divide. That doesn't really rhyme, but just pretend. If it starts with a D, then divide. So if it starts with an I, multiply. If it starts with a D, divide. So if it varies inversely, you're multiplying xy on both sides. So this one is exactly the same, so you can skip it. Okay, but it's x1 times y1, x2 times y2. Versus, look at the one down here. Is this the same too? Blast. Okay, I guess you can cross out 3 and 4. Wow, fail. Okay, it'd be y2 over x2, y1 over x1. Okay, so then really I guess you only have to do the back side. Lucky us. Okay? So if it's inverse, you're multiplying. If it's direct, you're dividing. Okay, I did record notes, so if you guys came in late and you're confused, you can watch them after